So good morning, Nancy. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fantastic, Delinda. How are you doing? Can you
I'm
believe?
great. I
Can
see
you
we have
believe? Yeah, can
pink
you believe?
earrings.
I know us little girls love to play dress up and we have fun accessorizing. But I didn't look like this yesterday because I was helping to clean my neighbor's house.
Oh,
But it's always so much fun to be with you. And I cannot believe how fast time is going by, Delinda. But you know what? Every day is a gift and a blessing, and we're glad to be here.
yes, absolutely. So hopefully y'all recognize my beautiful co-host, Miss Nancy White. It's just so fun. I love this. At least I know once a month I'm going to see you.
Oh, I look forward to our girl time, but more than anything, we learn from each other and then we share that with other amazing ladies. So they might can save a little bit of time and discovery.
That's right. That's right. So, well, all of you that were with us last week, well, welcome today. And if you were with us last week, we started a conversation about priorities, and we had, with Lisa Fredrickson about how we, make your 5 priority circles or your boxes or your list, whatever personality you are. Mine actually are clouds. I make little clouds and put my priorities in them, and then brain dump and go through that what you're doing every day and every week. What do you need to keep that's important? And then what do you need to tweak? Maybe finalize it, whatever. There's some tweaking, and I am a great tweaker. I can tweak from now till the cows come home. And then those things that we need to release. So now you've had a week to kind of live with that. So be thinking of that as we talk about our subject. Because here's the thing that when we know our priorities, that's the beginning and that's powerful. But when we lead from those, it's transformational. It can transform your life, and just give you so much more joy and peace and comfort, really. What do you think about that, Nancy?
Absolutely, because you're going in the flow, and when it flows with ease, then that's when you know that you're on the right path. And but sometimes we can cause our own interruptions sometimes, but everybody has a great way that they are working it all out in their systems, that they know that they are walking with the Lord. They're not running ahead, they're not behind, they're right there hand in hand.
Mhm. And I think as women, we really, um, I am much better than this now. I've been working on it for a number of years, but the whole people pleasing part of this, you have your priorities set up and you really know and you've got it set. And then somebody comes up and says, can you do this? And it's like, you really want to make them happy. Or, oh, Nancy, we really need you because you like so the best at this or that. And it's so easy to want to just say yes because you want to help them. But that's where realigning and really looking at it, praying about it, and then go back to your list of priorities. Does this fit in your priorities? Is this something that is important that's going to move you forward? Or if you really believe that's what God's telling you, now that's a whole different thing. If He's saying do it, but just because somebody asked doesn't mean that's what God is asking you, right?
Absolutely. And sometimes I have learned over the years too, Delinda, that, my human self will, just like you're talking about a people pleaser, go, oh, yes, I can help you do that. I can do that, blah, 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 blah. Instead of just waiting for a moment and asking God, is this something that you want me to do? And then finding out that answer. Because, us women, we can really overextend ourselves
Really fast.
really fast, and saying no, or let me get back with you, and have that time to be able to really pray about it and to think and ask. So I think the subject that you've got today too, especially even asking yourself, does this align with my purpose? And you and I were talking a little bit earlier about how our purpose changes all through our life. There's different seasons and stages. And, our ultimate purpose is to do what the Lord wants us to do, and to be with Him, and to be doing everything that he has for us. That's the ultimate. That never changes. But the life purposes, as far as raising children, going through different times, seasons of life, they change, even in business. And so I think one of the things that women have to think about too is we're always evolving, we're always changing, but we can do that and flow with ease too.
Absolutely. I found a quote, I thought it was really good. Clarity without courage still leads to exhaustion. So, sometimes, we have to have that courage to say no, or maybe later, whatever that answer is, instead of that. I used to really just say yes, pretty easy. 'Cause I think it's like two different kinds of conversations. There's the yes to the opportunities and the growth that we want to have, right? But then there's the yes just to answer what somebody's asking us. We always want to say yes to the Lord. That's not even up for debate. But it's all the other yeses that questions that people are asking us to do, or that we just feel like, well, I guess I should. I kind of found if I am saying to myself, I should do that, that's not the right answer. So,
I know. And this doesn't really have anything to do with business, but it has to do with, how sometimes we spontaneously do things. Like if you're looking through something or going through something and you're going, oh, I want that, or I can use that or whatever. And you've purchased it or whatever. And then all of a sudden you're on a subscription or whatever it is. And you're sitting there going, maybe I better have thought about that first. It's like, but we can always get, I'm not going to say tricked into some things, but we spontaneously do some things. And that's where grace comes in. Oh my gosh. That's where, when we look and ask the Lord to redeem, some things that we have made choices about in the past, then that's where we can go back in and he gives us a do-over.
I'm so glad to get those do-overs. For sure, for sure. I think too, we don't like to disappoint people, whether it's in our family, one of the kids calls and says, can you do this or can you do that? We don't want to disappoint them, and for us, we moved back here so we could have more involvement in the lives of the kids and the grandkids. But just because they ask, I think we still have to look at our overall picture of in our life. Sometimes it's easier to just do it than to have to think about it. Sometimes, we don't want disappointment, or they really need us. And I have found, I'm just in this beginning of this whole grandmother stuff, this, Mimi, and I do want to be with the kids as much as possible. But now that I'm aligning myself in some other areas as well, I really have to look at it. So I am getting better, saying to whichever of the kids, let me really look at my calendar, and if I can, I will, but let me just check it out, because I'm also now have just reached the point of, now that I've added my life back in, I put life on hold, taking care of my mother, and then kind of got back in. I've been really, really careful and prayerful about what things I add back. So I'm in the middle of, if y'all are in the middle of this, I'm right there with you. I know what it's like to have to look at those things and say, what are you going to do or what are you not? But that really being careful to not overextend, because it is so easy to do that. And I want to make them
And then
happy.
then we wonder why we're so tired, or we don't have the energy to do the things that we should be doing. I really need to be exercising today, but my time and whatever. But that's where it comes, where we have to prioritize our self-care, the things that we need to take care of us first and foremost. And the Lord honors it. Don't you love how he extends time and he allows us to do things that, when we look back over and go, wow, thank you, Lord, for getting all that, done, and letting me go through it and come out and go, I'm still feeling great.
Right. It's kind of like, when you're getting ready to go on vacation, it is amazing how much you can get done in that week before you leave, because you're planning and trying to allot your time, right? And get packed and all that. And it's like, wow, I did about 3 weeks of work and stuff just getting ready for that 1 week vacation. So
I know, and I don't know about you, but I always love to make sure my house is clean or whatever, because I thought, yes, when I come back, it'll be really pleasant. And then if the Lord takes me home before then, whoever's coming in, they're gonna, oh, this house is clean.
I have to say, I've never thought of that. I love to come home to a clean house, but I never
Yep.
thought of it so that if I don't make it back, the house will be clean. Okay, you've added a new little thought there. So yeah, it does.
Um,
It's so nice to walk in and the house is clean, right?
it
It's like
is.
I'm never, I mean, that's why I can't stand to leave dishes in the sink overnight,
Mhm.
even. I like to get up and everything's ready to start the day. So
Yeah. Mhm.
so what do you think also, so as leaders, because Nancy, you've been a leader for years. All of us are leaders in some manner.
Mhm.
So let's first just put that up front. And John Maxwell says leadership is influence, period. We
Mhm.
all have influence with other people in some area of our life. So whether it's in a job situation or in our homes or whatever. So how do you think this plays into being a leader, Nancy?
Well, I really think, we show other people by how we live. It's just like even when you're raising your children, they always say, do as I say, not as I do, or whatever. So I think being, a leader shows good work ethics and good ways to be able to, again, just like you're talking about, what is your capacity? What is, the things that you're doing to what you're saying yes to? I think letting, especially you and I have been around beautiful women for decades, and helping them to navigate their journey in ways that can be, again, pleasant and uplifting and fulfilling. And I think that's one of the things, as a leader, especially, and you and I love to just be able to stop and just go, wow, thank you, Lord. Just in thank you for allowing me to fill in the blank. You know, it sounds really simple, but I was so happy with myself the other day. I just rewired 2 lamps. And because my dad was an electrical engineer and I'd learned some different things from him. And so they were the touch lamps and the sensors both went out. And so I ordered the little replacement parts, and I'm sitting there, and I didn't even YouTube it, Delinda, because
Wow.
and so, but when I got finished, I thought, those little joys of life of getting something accomplished. But it's the same with leaders when you're showing other people and sharing and showing. And so those are the things that we can really help, especially to guide and to direct. And guess what? We are always looking and learning. We got a lot of L and L's and S and S looking and learning. And, because the more that we continually learn and then do, then those are the things that we can share with others too. But did that answer your question?
Yes, no, I love it. You always have great insights to share. I think the difference maybe partially is that leaders lead from their priorities.
Mhm.
Well, they don't just have their priorities; they live from them.
Mhm.
The priorities are where they make their decisions from. So if you have
Mhm.
a vision and this is your priority for your business or for your home, like I said,
Mhm.
all of these things we say can um, whatever the word is, go with either business or your life
Yes.
journey, because we're like
Mhm.
all one thing. We're not just separate little people out here.
Yeah.
And it just, true leaders, I think the ones that we want to follow are those that really live their priorities. Like you said, you walk the walk, we're sharing what we do every day.
Mhm.
And it really, it's really not as hard as we sometimes try to make it, or maybe it is a simple concept, but sometimes a little harder to walk out. But that, you're looking at something, it's like, well, is this good? Is this something that's in line with where my priorities are now? My
Mhm.
younger years, I was doing when my kids were little, leading choirs at church and doing children's choirs and all of that. And that was a major priority. And I felt like that's just what I'm supposed to be doing. Well, that is not me anymore. That season has changed and I loved it, but I don't want to go back to that. Now we are leading women, in
Mhm.
different ministries. And so I love how God uses the gifts he's given us, but he uses them in different ways depending on where he has us planted at that moment. And then
Absolutely. Yep.
really
It
try
is.
to
And
live that
when
out.
you said that, we can go, yes, we've been there, we've done it, and we've lived to tell. And those are the things that we're going to, continually help other people to do. And when we were talking also about, setting goals and doing things, that goals are those things that what we do, but our purpose is why we do it. And so, is and that changes all, just Lord talking about our seasons. And when you just sit there and just said, what, if somebody came up and said, Delinda, would you like to lead our children's choir? It'll be a great experience and blah, blah, blah. And then your brain's going, da, 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 all the things that you're already committed to doing and the things that you are prioritizing in your life today. And that's when you can just, you don't even have to do the pros and the cons. I mean, I love, just like your friend was talking about the dumps and everything, when you've got a situation and you're not sure about it, write it down, write the pros and the cons, and then go back and look at it if you need to. But also, and I don't want to get off track, but I think it's amazing to have great counselors. I think for myself, having that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, those three areas are huge. And if I don't have one of those areas, then I need to wait and to be able to acquire that area. I had, again, another situation the other day with something that's coming up. And I got in touch with a couple of my trustworthies, and they said, well, I would do this and this and this. And I just thought about it. And they said, one of my friends, she goes, what is your gut telling you? Don't you love it? What is your gut telling you? Are you at peace with this decision? Or are you, whatever? And I think women, again, we have to stop and acknowledge that. So anyways, I think, what you are sharing with others about this whole topic, it really comes down to stopping and evaluating and seeing what is needed and acquiring those great resources, those support systems, and then go from there, making those decisions to continually move forward. Because you had a great topic, is this moving me forward or is this taking me back? Because you're not going to go back and do the children's choir again, because you were very successful and did that. I mean, at this time. But what do you think? What do you think when you have a situation, Delinda, and you have to just sort of stop and think, is this making me move forward? Is this slowing me down? Or is it taking me back?
And I think too, that question, do I have the wherewithal to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have the energy, not only just the time, but with the other things? I think everything gets evaluated. Or do I need to release something else? If this is the priority, what do I need to release? Because it's when we keep piling it on that we wind up, as you mentioned before, about being really exhausted. Um, in the Bible study called Experiencing God, which y'all have heard me talk about because I'm in the middle of it and God's got me teaching it several times. One of the things that they point out there is, we tend to say, and I remember my mother saying, don't just stand there, do something. Well, like we're cleaning the house or whatever. But the book points out and says, no, don't just do something, stand there. Stop, just what you're saying, stop and wait, stop and pray, stop and just take a breath in. And there's no reason why. I loved your answer before. It's like, well, let me think on that. A lot of times people will say, well, let me pray on that. When I was trying to recruit people for things back in my earlier days, I didn't think people really did. I mean, I just thought they said, I'm going to pray about that. And that just meant they didn't want to answer, but I think a lot of them really were. I wasn't very gracious at that time. But I think it is important, because otherwise we get ourselves in this, again, like you said, you're buying this something that you don't need. We're saying yes to something that's not going to serve us, isn't part of our priorities at all. and maybe it just feels good for right now. It's like, oh yeah, let's go do that, and then later it's like, okay, I just lost 4 hours of time that, now if that's part of your taking care of yourself, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So we all know where that thing is for us. I never like really the word balance, but that how to keep ourselves in harmony. So we're working where our self-care, as we've talked about before too, is part of that.
Yeah. And that's a good question to ask yourself too. Is this building me up or tearing me down? Or, is this gonna, we're always sewing in, and every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else. Or in the same thing, if we're saying no to this, we're saying yes to something else. And time is one of the most precious gifts that we have. And it is okay for women to have fun, go to a movie with a girlfriend, go do something, go for a nice walk or whatever it is, and not feel guilty, not be remorseful about, oh, well, I did this and this. God wants us to be happy. He wants us to enjoy this life. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of times people think, I got to be the straight and the narrow. I got to be this. No, the joy of the Lord's our strength. Laughter's healing. There's so many things that he wants us to enjoy and to do. But in the meantime, we need to be mindful of all the amazing resources that he has put in around us.
Absolutely. And we do certainly have so many resources, so many things that we can look at or learn from. I mean, it's important that we are always on that journey of learning and trying to be better, be wiser. That a prayer I pray a lot is just, give me wisdom and discernment. And if I'm searching for wisdom, the Bible talks about it a lot, about wisdom and praying for wisdom, and you ask for wisdom and he will give it to you. So it's like, okay, Lord, I know I'm asking for something that you want me to ask for, so I know you're going to give it to me. But we have to act out on that too, so that we're paying attention. And I think also a word that fits in with our whole discussion today is the word intentional. Really being intentional about the decisions we made, not doing it just because somebody asked, not doing something just because it feels good, not doing something just random, but being intentional about it. Yes, this is part of my, I need to rest. The Lord rested, God took the seventh day and rested. He wants us to rest. He wants us to rest in him. We also have those, the business things or the ministry things that we're doing, but being intentional and making sure those are the best. Just because something's good doesn't mean it's the best thing or what he really has for us at this particular time.
Yeah. And I love asking him that question. Lord, is this a yes or a no? And then I'm quiet. And then I'm just being still before him. And that still small voice always comes out. And then if I don't hear anything, then I wait. Because, if you have not got a clear answer, that's when, just like you said, you wait and you seek and you ask him. And look at his faithfulness. All you got is look in the rearview mirror and see how good he has been in spite of us.
Right.
Yeah.
It really is. So do you think that that women should maybe be a little more intentional on learning to protect? So for a different way to say it, to protect our yeses, not to just give them out, really protect what is it that we want. Is this a priority for me right now? Does this help me in my business? Is this moving me forward? Is it better for my family? Because most everybody's going to have their family and their business, whatever that is, in their group of priorities. But really, we need to protect those and not just give out yeses at random when sometimes they don't really matter.
Especially if you have the gift of mercy and serving. Those are two gifts, that you can let get out of control really fast. And so God gives us all different gifts and talents. And so, but Jess, I think it is because all you have to do is go back to your priorities, just like you said, the Lord, your family, your friends, all those things. It affects everything. Anything that we do does not just affect us only, whether we see it or not. I mean, it's part of the kingdom. It's part of everything that's going on. But yes, I do agree with you that you need to protect your yeses and your nos, because, there's certain personality types that can say no really fast or whatever and hurt your feelings or hurt, something. So I think that's something that sometimes we need to, just like you said, we need to wait and let me check, let me see how this is going to fit in. But there's sometimes, in your spirit where it's no, and it's all right just to say, no, thank you. No, not at this time. I'm sure there's somebody that can be able to have gifts and talents to be able to do that. And that we've got some good intuition. We talked about that, that feeling in your gut. If it makes you feel sick or if it's ruffling your spirit, you better wait.
Yeah. I love that, because don't you think that after, I mean, we are, we've been alive a few years, we've been around the block a few times, and I have so learned to trust that. In my younger years, I didn't really trust my gut, but that expression is there for a reason. And of course we believe and we know that that's the Holy Spirit acting within us. But man, it's like if I start I get these little, especially like if I'm in committee meetings and stuff, and I get this little tingly things like, okay, this is not good. And sometimes it's the tingle of saying, do not open your mouth, Delinda.
It's
like, this is not a place for you to interject something. But I think, God really does. I mean, the Holy Spirit works in us. And if it is a feel bad, I'm probably harder reading when I'm just in that iffy stage. If it doesn't really feel bad, I'm gotten really good. When I feel it's a no, even if I don't say it to that person at that moment, it's like I know it. Sometimes I have to pause and take the time to know how to say it to them without hurting their feelings.
Graciously, yes.
Yes, like, are you kidding me? Of course not. Not a nice way to do it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy, but I do think that we should, and really listening. And when I loved it when you said, and I think this is so crucial, is when we don't know, don't do anything. It's like, wait. You said that yourself. Well, if you don't know, then just wait, because the Lord will give us the answer. And if we don't have a yes, the opposite is true.
That's true.
So
if
we don't have a yes,
are you gonna try to kick that door down and then have a broken toe? And then, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, obviously, if it's not yes, it already is no. And I think that's something we forget sometimes, is that, if you aren't going to do if you're not going to move forward in whatever it is, then that means no, that God wants you to wait for something else, and trusting that He really has got it under control, and that there's just so many, we just can't see everything. There's so many repercussions. And you said earlier, what we do, the decisions we make do affect other people in our family or in our businesses. And others are watching us as we lead in our families, how we respond to things, how quickly, if your kids see you, or grandkids, or wherever you are in your life, they just see you saying yes, 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 yes all the time, and then you're burnt out and you don't have time for them and you don't want to play. Something is not right there. Something is time for readjustments, and you're showing them how to live through that. Are we going to do it with grace and realign ourselves if we get out of whack? Because I think we all do at times. Sometimes it's because of external circumstances that are put on us, but even within that, we get to decide how we're going to manage it, and really going, first of all, to the Lord on that, but then just looking at, I think the whole exercise that we probably don't do it enough is looking at the things that we're doing. Maybe every 6 months, instead of the once a year that most of us do, maybe every 6 months you look at things, because that's when things start about halfway through the year or whatever time frame you're looking at is, well, now I'm doing 20 things and I was only doing 10 and no wonder I'm exhausted or whatever.
And
I,
I want to go to the beach and take a vacation. I know, yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, but when you were talking just a minute ago, it just was such a flashback, that old hymn that was trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus than to trust and obey. And if we keep it that simple, those are the things that we can wait. And his timing is so different from ours. And when we can look back and we can see his faithfulness, and there's some things that don't come to fruition that we've asked for, whatever. And you know what? That's him protecting us. That's him guiding him, putting up those walls of protection around us when we need it. And we didn't think we wanted it that way, but we didn't see down the road either, Delinda.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think as women, we just need to realize that we can't be, nor should we think that we should be everything to everybody.
Mhm.
We have the purpose that God has given to us at this particular time, and being true to what that is. And I love that hymn, as a matter of fact, trust and obey. I love that. So, well, we are at the top of the hour. As always, the time goes so fast. And I hope that those of y'all that are listening today, that maybe something in here has maybe stirred your spirit to think, maybe looking at your priorities and how you want to move forward. What is really, go back to your priority list of the things that are important to you, and really be intentional about where you say yes and where you say no. Any last comment, Nancy?
Oh, I just think it's continually, we're always in that progression. We're always moving forward. We're moving forward to, heaven. And so, but in the meantime, just making sure that we've got that great daily, all day long, especially for some of us that need it all day long, keeping, the Lord is the priority, asking him, seeking godly counsel, making sure that we've got all the information before we make those decisions, sometimes, especially the hard decisions. And so always, Delinda, as usual, you are always bringing light and joy and just, wonderful guidance to so many people. And I'm very grateful that I get to have fun with you and we have these amazing conversations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love it. I love that God brought you into my life and we get to share this together. So, all right, everybody. I know that you've heard some great things today. I hope that helps you as you walk through this week. Remember that life is not a matter of chance. It is definitely a matter of choice, as we talked about actually all day without saying those exact words. But as you go out, just remember that it is a choice. You can choose to be intentional in the things that you do, and to really walk boldly where God has you, right now. Walk boldly and always go to him when you're in the middle of that decision time, when that decision making. So thanks so much, everybody. Go out, make it a great week, and we will see you next week. Take care, everybody. Bye now.